So what are some of your favorite Christmas songs? I want you to actually say them out loud. What are some of your favorite Christmas songs? The songs that you long to hear. It's not Christmas until you've sang that song. What is your song? What child is this? White Christmas. Okay. I heard in the other service that White Christmas doesn't happen in Houston or something. There's a song that was actually written about no white Christmases in Houston or something. What's another one? Oh, Holy Night. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. What else? Emmanuel? Yes. Any others? Silent Night. That's always the way that we end our Christmas Eve service, of course. Silent Night. Well, today we begin a brand new teaching series entitled Carols. It's basically our excuse to sing some of the songs that we love to sing, the songs that bring back all of those memories and that nostalgia, and you're transported to that place and that time when you were with your family or you were with that special group and it was Christmas. And today, we start off with one of maybe the most popular of songs. I'm so surprised that none of you said Joy to the World. Joy to the World. It might be one of the most popular Christmas songs ever. How many of you guys know who wrote Joy to the World? Oh my goodness, you don't know. It's only the most popular hymn writer in all of history. His name's Isaac Watt. Back in the 1600s, he is known as the father of hymns. He wrote over 750 hymns. Many of the hymns that you think about as some of the kind of just the pillars of traditional worship music, it's all this guy right here. As the story goes, when Isaac was growing up in the church, he really just didn't like the music at all. It was lifeless, and it wasn't very thoughtful, and it wasn't inspiring, and he especially hated to see the faces of the people as they would sing it. It just didn't bring joy to them. And so his dad actually gave him a challenge. His dad says, "Write better music, son. If you don't like this music, write something that really displays the heart of a worshiper." And so he did. And the songs that he wrote have literally shaped the landscape of church music. And maybe the best of all of them is Joy to the World. It's Christmas for me when this verse comes. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. It's Christmas to me, this song. I remember singing it probably when, I don't even know what age I was, because it's always been sung. It always kind of brings that rush of nostalgia and joy. Joy for me. It's based on one of these beautiful psalms, Psalm 98. It's a call to the people. You know, the word psalm, of course, is a song, or sometimes it's a prayer that was recorded and it was sung over and over by the Hebrew people. And so they were reminding each other through this song that they would sing about the joyful message that is theirs. So this leads us to our question. Are you joyful this morning? Is your heart filled with joy? I heard a yes over there. I like that. I like that. Who feels joyful this morning? Who's ready for the Christmas season and just can't wait? Yeah, raise your hand. I love it. Okay, we've got a few that are ready for Christmas, that have got some joy that's inside of them. Maybe a question that we might address is, why should the world be joyous? It's not difficult to look around and to see the challenges that we face, to look around and see suffering, to look around and see violence, to see prejudice, to see division. We can all call out our list of challenges. Do you know that the prophets back in Jesus' day and prior to Jesus' day, they're recorded as looking up into the heavens, into the darkness, and asking the question, God, where are you amidst all of this? It seems like it's all a mess. I mean, this last week we had another shooting in a school. I mean, God, what is this world coming to? Where are you? I have a friend of mine that's I catch up with at the gym from time to time, and he knows I'm a pastor, and so our conversations always turn towards spiritual things. And he was letting me know about a unique function of his sunroof. He on days when life just seems to be swirling out of control and there's no sense of anything being connected and life is falling apart, he'll just open up his sunroof and take that as an opportunity to just let God have it. Have you ever gotten to the point where you're just ready to just kind of, you need to say some things, you need to let some things off your chest? And I think that he was expecting me, because he shared with me some choice words, and I think he was expecting me to kind of like, finger wag. And I said, I think that's actually an excellent practice. I think that God is actually honored when we just speak our minds, when we allow what's really going on to be known. If we need to shake our fist at the sky, then I think God's definitely big enough to handle what you're going through right now. Now, of course, some of the unexplained suffering in this world, the unexplained mysteries that we encounter, I think it also leads some people to question the existence of God. How can there be a God if you fill in the blank? I was reading an article not too long ago. It was actually written several years ago, but it was an interview with well-known atheist Stephen Fry, and he was asked the question, what would you say to God if given the opportunity? Interesting answer. It'll be up here behind me. If I believed in God, he said, I'd say bone cancer in children? Really? What's that about? How dare you create a world in which there's so much misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world that is so full of injustice and pain? Kind of stings a little bit, doesn't it? Maybe you're a little bit offended. But I just hear honesty. I hear honesty born of anguish. And someone, of course, that doesn't have the influence of faith, doesn't have the influence of a theme running through his life that grounds him with greater realities. See, I think that these are just honest observations about the unexplained evil and suffering in this world. It simply is. We know what's going on around us. And yet, what I want to say to you this morning is I believe that these comments, though honest, they are deficient. They are incomplete thoughts about God. Thoughts about who God is, what God's character is, what God's heart is like. and how God is involved in this world. And so I think this morning I want to invite you to join me in Psalm chapter 98, because I believe that this song was written. It was written by the Hebrew people as a reminder. You see, I have a confession to make. Sometimes, I don't know if Bob, we have a few preachers here in this gathering here, but sometimes I get so fixated on reading and trying to find the thing that no one else has heard before. You ever try to find, I would always just keep on reading until I found the new perspective, the brand new observation. And you know what? This morning, nothing came. I study all week long. It wasn't as though I was waiting for this morning for it to happen. But I have to believe that some of the tried and true anchoring beliefs that helped those Hebrew people way back before Jesus even came are the exact same anchoring beliefs and truths that maybe you need to hear today. And that's why they penned this song. That's why it was written. And that's why they sang it over and over. And that's why it's become beloved. It's because it's things that we need to hear again and again. And so it's divided into 3 sections. Let me read the first section for you. Sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. The Lord has made his salvation known and revealed his righteousness to the nations. He has remembered his love and his faithfulness to Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Now the theme of this first section, can you see it? When you read through, what is the theme? What is the resounding theme of these first 3 verses? Salvation. Salvation. In verse 1, God's primary work is salvation. In verse 2, God makes salvation known. In verse 3, all creation has seen the salvation of God. Now, there's a very unique word that's used for salvation here in the Hebrew language. First of all, salvation is not a moment. It's not something that happened. It's actually an event. It's an ongoing event. So it's a kind of verb that is continuous. So salvation, if you're understanding it the way that the Hebrews understand it, it's an ongoing event. So salvation is happening. It didn't happen back when I was 8 and I prayed a prayer with so-and-so. Salvation is something that's happening. And the salvation term can also be translated in different ways. It can be translated as liberation. It can be translated as victory. And so the salvation event that's ongoing is one that's meant to free us over and over and over. Save us over and over and over. And it's also meant, just so that we're clear, it's meant, salvation is an experience that's meant for here and now. Yes, there is a life after this that Jesus talked about, but the Hebrews that wrote this song, they understood salvation. They called out, they needed salvation, the salvation event to take place in their life right now, right here. Can I get an amen on that one? Do we want to wait until the next life, the life after this, or when the kingdom comes together? No, I want salvation right now. I want to feel freed. I want to feel liberated. I want to feel victory in my own life right here, right now. And that's exactly what the Hebrews expected as well. All of this is tied up in this word salvation. We get crazy ideas about what saves us sometimes. The other day I was sitting on my couch trying to not think about anything. Channel surfing, and I came upon this old movie. Have you seen the Lord of the Rings movie? I think everybody in the world has seen it 25 times. So this is Gollum. I was right there at that part in the movie where Gollum is introduced. And of course, Gollum starts off and he's a relatively like normal elf, right? In the fantasy world. So that's Gollum before, when he finds this ring. And remember with me, if you've seen the movie, about what happens once he finds this ring. Immediately he becomes just absolutely mesmerized by this ring. Everything revolves around this ring, and he starts pushing everyone else away, his family away, anything else that he did. All he could do is just fixate upon this ring in some way. He just believed that this ring was going to complete him, give him meaning, it was going to save him. And yet over the course of time, we see that the ring, and he called it, what did he call it? Precious. Yeah, we all know but over the course of time, the ring didn't give him life. The ring didn't complete him. The ring slowly stole his humanity. And he's transformed from the figure on the right to this figure on the left. Now it's all that silly story, fantasy world. And yet, how often do we do the same thing? How often do we allow something, some goal, some accomplishment, some position, some even possession? Sometimes it's so sad, but we think that we're going to be completed, that our meaning, that we're going to be saved when we get that thing. I mean, it sounds silly, but it happens. Do you know, I just want to say just simply to you, do you know God is the only one who holds salvation? There is nothing that you can attain, that we can attain, that will ever save you. It will be so deficient, no matter how wonderful it is, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying all this is, no, I'm just saying there's nothing that can save you. Nothing that can save you except for the God that created you. The psalmist reminds us that remembering who this God is and what this God is like, and making an intentional effort of following in the footsteps of this God. This is how we walk our salvation path. During this time of year, of course, we remember how God came and walked among us, was born into this world in the form of a baby. Today, we remember the scriptures. Today, in the town of David, a baby was born, and he is the Savior. He is Christ, the Lord. And it's Jesus that came to save us. How did he come to save us? He came to save us by showing us who God was and what God was like. God's character is on full display in the person of Jesus. He came to save us by teaching us how to love God and self and neighbor. He came to save us by showing us God's vision for this world, so we wouldn't just go about the business of building our own kingdom, but that we would be about the business of building God's kingdom. He modeled what a life that seeks first the kingdom looked like for us. And I want to say something as well. I think that Jesus came to save us, but I think that Jesus came to save God as well. You ever heard that claim? See, I think over the course of time that God's name and God's character, it's been blurred and co-opted and hijacked even to be a God that condones things that are completely outside the character of God, condones hate, condones prejudice, condones violence. Condones exclusion. God's heart is mirrored in the person of Jesus. So I believe that Jesus came to clarify, no. Don't be confused. This is what God looks like. This is who your God is. Let's go on to the next 3 verses. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Burst into jubilant song with music. Make music to the Lord with the harp. with the harp and the sound of singing, with trumpets and the blast of the ram's horn. Shout for joy before the Lord, the King. These few verses, they incite us to sing a song. And I want to ask you this morning, if you believe with me that salvation is an ongoing event, it's a salvation song that we're singing. If you believe that salvation is an ongoing event, what's your latest verse? If God is always in the process of saving you, if your journey, your road or path of salvation is ongoing, what's your verse for 2021? How is God saving you? How has God saved you in all of the complexity of 2021? What's your latest verse? Maybe that would be an incredible thing for you to do with your family, of sitting down and in front of that tree or sometime in the days that lead up to Christmas Eve and to think together, what are some of the words? What are some of the words that would compose the new verse of your salvation song? Of how God is freeing you and liberating you and bringing joy. What would it be? What would be the new verse? For time's sake, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is where we'll end. Let the sea resound and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the mountains sing together for joy. Let them sing before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and the people with equity. Section 3 calls us that the whole of creation actually joins in this song, this salvation song. It's not just your song. It's the song of creation, that the whole of creation is singing a salvation song. Let the sea roar, let the river clap its hands. Let the mountains sing. How many of you have stood on a seashore or on a mountaintop and you couldn't help but just clap or applause or sing a song? Because God's goodness and God's harmony, and you could just hear the whisper and the crashing of the waves or the wind. God's song is being sung all around us. And it's a part of our song. But I want you to look at something before we close. I want you to look at in verse 9, because the psalmist makes a brash theological claim that I don't want you to miss. So right here in the third verse second line of verse 9, it talks about how God comes to judge the earth. Now, first of all, that word that is translated as comes is also another one of those continuous action verbs. So it's better translated as God is coming. God comes again and again, or God is coming to judge. Oftentimes, judge is translated or thought of as kind of a discipline, an act of discipline. God comes to discipline us. But that's not how the Hebrews understood it at all. God actually comes to set things right. That is much more, it's a restorative act. God is coming over and over and over, continuing right now. God is coming into your world, into your mind, into your heart, into your home right now to set things right, to restore, to heal. And so this is the big theological claim, friends, and you might have heard this before, but let it anchor you in hope in this season. That this God that comes and is coming over and over and over, amidst all of the mystery, this God is shaping history. That this great creator is guiding along history in all of its complicated nature, but history is being moved by this God towards something good. No matter where you find yourself today, no matter how complicated life is, the God that is yours, the God that created you, is moving your story, shaping your story and our story towards something that's very, very good. I'm going to skip that last little quote, and I want to go straight to this wonderful way that this hymn ends. See, I want this to be one of the gifts that you receive this season. Amidst all the challenges and questions of life, may we live a faith that brings freedom and brings joy and hope. And it's consummate in this last verse of Joy to the World. Would you sing it with me? He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love. Amen.